And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Starting off the flying weather segment here with tomorrow's graphic showing a lot of IFR here over the west and southwest interior, and IFR, North Slope, Arctic coast, and some IFR up here across the northeast interior, and another zone over the Talkeetna Mountains down in toward northern Prince William Sound, and then down in toward the eastern Kenai Peninsula, and yet another band out here with another system pushing IFR in across Adak and Atka. And then for the afternoon, that zone slides eastward here, now spreading IFR and across the eastern Aleutians, and some improvement back toward Adak. More IFR here for the Yukon Delta, Norton Sound, extending out to St. Lawrence Island. A third zone up here along the Arctic coast. VFR for the southeast coast up into the central eastern Copper River Basin. Not too bad north of the Alaska Range there. Upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, right on up to the eastern flats of the Yukon River area. VFR Kodiak Island, most of Cook Inlet. And then for Thursday morning, IFR here over the western interior, all the way up to the central Arctic coast there. Continued VFR here from about the Tanana Valley there around Fairbanks, it looks like, down into the Copper River Basin, including the North Gulf Coast. VFR Cook Inlet eastward across the Kenai Peninsula, all the way down the southeast coast, and VFR for Kodiak Island. And again, IFR here out west, and then marginal VFR for the Bering Sea and all of the Aleutians into the Alaska Peninsula. For Thursday afternoon, IFR shifts eastward and northward, covering a big area here of the Arctic coast, right on down to the Brooks Range, and all the way down to the Alaska Range here, with VFR south of the mountains for the Susitna Valley, down to Cook Inlet, most of the Kenai Peninsula, Kodiak Island, as well as Bristol Bay. VFR also for the eastern Aleutians, Atka Island, and south central Alaska, VFR with marginal VFR for Prince William Sound into the Copper River Basin, IFR over the southern southeast coast with marginal VFR to the north. And for passes, Anatuvik and Adigan, occasional marginal VFR, both passes there. For the day Wednesday, Lake Clark and Merrill look rather marginal. And same thing for Rainy, marginal VFR, a little more extensive there than it will be down to the south. And for Windy, marginal VFR with possible IFR in the northern entrance. Isabel, marginal. Mintasta, marginal. And Tanita also looking pretty marginal tomorrow, with Portage starting out marginal, becoming VFR in the afternoon, maybe late morning through the afternoon. And for Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels, 2,000 to 6,000 feet there across the southeast coast, with 2,000 feet here along the North Gulf Coast, about Middleton Island. Otherwise, 2,000 feet reaching the central and eastern Aleutian areas. And as far as icing goes, not much out here over the Bering Sea of the Aleutians. The next band with the system out here to the west, staying west of Shimian-Attu, the way it looks at this time, and some possible isolated moderate rime icing there for the central and eastern North Slope, mostly north of the Brooks Range. Some of that could get down into the mountains there. And also some isolated moderate here for the Panhandle, right on up into the eastern North Gulf Coast, possibly spreading into central Prince William Sound, maybe a little bit of that getting into portions of the Copper River Basin. And sharp trough here at 33,000 feet with southerly 33,000 foot winds up to 95 knots there over the eastern interior, and southeast 95 knots with this low just west of the Queen Charlotte Islands there, staying to the south of the Panhandle. And out to the west, we've got northerly flow here coming out of the Russian Far East up to 65 or 80 knots there over the east central Aleutians, turning westerly farther to the west. And for 9,000 feet, a ridge here from Russian Far East right on down into the west central Aleutians. And to the east of this ridge, we've got north and northeast winds up to 30, 35 knots there, coming from Norton Sound right on down across the Pribilofs to the eastern Aleutians. Not too bad over the interior, pretty light winds here with southeast 35 to 40 knots, all the way down from, well, actually from the eastern Brooks Range here, right on down into the eastern North Gulf Coast and the Panhandle. 3,000-foot winds, 45 knots out of the east-southeast there, right along the coast of Prince of Wales Island, much lighter to the north. And then this northerly wind pattern out here continues along the west coast, 30 knots, all the way down to the Alaska Peninsula. Higher pressure farther to the west, followed by another increase in the winds with that system, maybe up to 40 to 45 knots. And for turbulence, look for isolated moderate here from the northwest coast areas across the Seward Peninsula down along the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. As far east as possibly Dillingham, Alaska Peninsula and the eastern Aleutians, Kodiak Island on up into Cook Inlet. But the heavier turbulence here occurring along the central and southern southeast coastal areas.